All right. It is Thursday night, which is a great night for football. If it really, it's not been a good night for football. I have to take that back. Thursday night football has sucked this year, but hey, we haven't. The Eagles have been really good, except for last Monday night. They've been really awesome. And we're back with the Where Eagles Dare podcast with Leah and Tubby here. Whether you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, we appreciate you being here for the live streams. Today is a special show. We kind of are combining this one because of the holidays coming up with a lot going on. We only have the one day to do both our fantasy football preview as well as the game for coming up for the Eagles against the Indianapolis Colts as far as the preview. So that is coming up. And I tell you what, right off the bat, we've got this going on Sunday, and we'll get into the breakdown of the game. To me, it's a very important game. It's a game that we need to bounce back. It's an opponent that has been up and down this year, and we're going on the road. I'm going to be at this game, and I think I've said that 500 times. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm taking my son with me, and I really need an Eagles win after what happened as far as what happened with Washington on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. Coming out of the fallout of that game, out of the Washington game, there was a lot that's been said, a lot that's been talked about. Everybody had something to say. I really feel for Brendan Graham. He was a hero in the Super Bowl, and he's really taken this one hard. And so was Jason Kelce. When everybody brought up the refs, and let's be honest, refs had a hand in them losing, but I think the Eagles know this. And they got this quote from Brendan Graham right here on the slide. It says, "We can't put the game in the ref's hands. And that position, I just got to know. If he goes down, it's okay. For me, I was just hustling to the play, just trying to make sure he was down and trying to get it off the field." And then also it came out that Taylor Heineke even said he dove. He has no shame. He said, "I went down on one knee. I was hoping he would make contact with me so that I could sell it." And he did. So you can't begrudge Heineke for what he did. You really can't, because he's just trying to make a play and make sure that his team wins. And he did. If it had been us and it had been Hurts that would have done that, I would have been brilliant. That's a brilliant move. And it happened the way it did. There were bad calls in the game, but Brandon Graham, I think the Eagles as a whole are like, look, let's take the refs out of the equation and let's look at ourselves and look at what we did. And another quote that came out this week was AJ Brown. Now all of that 17-0 is over with. It's time to wake up. And I think for all of us, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what was wrong with me this year as a fan. Was that because of the fact that the Eagles were undefeated, to be undefeated, in possibilities, and where could it go? And now fans, we're not used to that. We're not used to an undefeated season. So it's been made the games harder to take. And honestly, the loss was bad, but it's cleansing as far as realizing, okay, it's just a game. They are human. And now we can get back to maybe trying to win a division, trying to maybe get the number one seed in the first round bye, which there's only one now in the NFC, and then trying to work our way through the playoffs games. But we talked about a couple of days ago, we talked about the review of the game, going through the things, and there was things that we mentioned that was a big problem. We both said that the run game, the run defense was not good. And I mentioned this a couple days ago, where it just talks about Jordan Davis. When he was on the field, the Eagles were only giving up 3.8 yards a carry, which isn't great, but it's not bad. But Jordan Davis, since he's been injured, the Eagles have been averaging and giving up 5.1 yards per carry, which is totally unacceptable. And it's not just Jordan Davis. We're having an issue with our defensive tackles, the one that's not named Hargrave. And I love Fletcher Cox. Don't get me wrong. Fletch is the man. He's one of my favorite all-time Eagles. But if you look at his stats, the last 6 games, he's had 289 snaps played, 0 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. And Cox ranks 45th out of 66 defensive tackles. That's not going to get it done in this league, especially when you're on an undefeated team and you need to keep going forward. All right. So, all that being said, if you're an Eagles fan and you haven't been keeping up, you should have been keeping up yesterday and today, because there was big happenings that came out of this loss with Washington, and we're going to discuss them right now. The first thing that happened, the big thing happened, was Linval Joseph, but Ndamukong Suh was signed today, and also Linval Joseph was brought in, two defensive tackles to kind of fill the gap that Jordan Davis has left. Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Unbelievable what Howie did today and yesterday. And so now I've cleared all that up. We've gone through the beginning to set this up, because for the big news, big defensive tackles, and Howie right now, this is Howie watching the Eagles lose one game after this season. And if you're just listening on the podcast, the picture is Howie just buffed, looking pissed off. And he went out and signed two veterans. I'll put it nicely. Veterans, guys that have been around. They got a little bit of wear on them, but also known as being run stoppers. So before we get into the Indianapolis Colts preview, we had to address that, the loss and the signings. So now, what Tubby, first of all, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, hey, man, life's great.
I didn't let you get a word in because I wanted to get right to this.
Life's great,
this
man.
podcast.
Life's great. I was just listening. Man. While you
so now I'm going to turn it over to you.
Everyone on the current Eagles news. Nah, man.
What do you think?
This was a with that last game, to me, it was a comedy of errors. So I think it was a game that you could laugh at. It was so, like I said, it was just a comedy of errors, man. So I'm not as bent out of shape as a lot of Eagles fans were over the loss. I'm not happy about a loss. I mean, nobody is happy about a loss. And what up, Shane? We're going to get right to you. But, even with that loss, I wasn't really tripping over it because it was just a comedy of errors, just things that we come into the game only committing 3 turnovers all year, and we get 4 in that game. I think you can justify that as being like an anomaly. Like, this isn't something, this was just one of those days, man. Just a dog day, Monday night for the Philadelphia Eagles. And hopefully we have enough leaders on this team. We just brought in 2 more leaders, as you can see, with Suh and Joseph. 2 things you see on their chests is that captaincy. So we're still bringing in veteran guys. A lot of teams that go deep, they bring in veteran guys as well, too. And veteran guys don't mind hooking on. You got Suh, who won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, and you got Joseph, who won one with the Rams. So we're bringing in guys that have fresh Super Bowl taste in their mouth, and they can rile these guys up to really get going and solidify that line a little bit better. I think it's more scheme than personnel, being honest.
Yeah.
But welcome to the Eagles, man. And,
yeah, exactly.
Like Lee always says, man, if you ever have a what up, Shane? If you ever have a question, man, we never mind just getting right into it. Would you drop Gallup for Dotson? Man, I think CeeDee Lamb is no. To answer your question in short, I wouldn't, because I still think Gallup is the number 2 to CeeDee out there, especially once he gets healthy. You see Dotson in that last game, he only had 1 catch or even 1 target. He still has a lot of other guys like Curtis Samuels and McLaurin, who's more of a, you can see McLaurin is the number 1 guy, then Samuels, then Dotson. I at least think with Gallup, you at least get a number 2 guy there. And he can be super explosive, man, where CD's taking the top off. Gallup's that slant guy that can get you, 6 to 8 catches a game, and he can really pile up stats when he's healthy. So that would be my advice on that. What you think about that, Lee?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at Dotson's output, even with Heineke as the quarterback, I mean, he's 14 yards against Philly. And then you go back to October. Looking at the stats, it doesn't line up right, but he doesn't really put up a lot of numbers this year, as far as, unless Carson Wentz is his quarterback.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz loved Dotson, and so Heineke kind of tends to go toward McLaurin. I think you're right. So Gallup is one of those guys that if the Cowboys do get it going, Dak, let's be honest, he's struggled this year so far. And since he's come back from his injury, I mean, that can't be denied. He struggled against Detroit, and then against Green Bay, he threw the a really crucial pick. Kept Green Bay in the game, and then of course they ended up, not being able to produce. And to me, that's one of the things that Dak does is in late in games he tends to disappear. But he is, in my opinion, still a better quarterback than Heineke. And I think you're right. I think Lamb's going to see a lot of double coverage, so it might open up for Gallup. So he said that. Did you look at the rest of his team? He said
Yep. Yep. Saw that
Russ,
there. Get my
yeah, he's got
Mhm.
Debo. Debo is going to come back. I got Debo. He's going to come back. Cooper, yeah, Cooper. Well, sorry, that's not good right now. But yeah, I see where you're wanting to bring somebody in.
Yeah.
J
When I see
JT, but we don't want JT to do any good this
right,
weekend. Just
right.
saying.
I see Cooper there. So you want to stay away from, I guess, other Browns guys. You know who's been a sleeper, but you don't want to start two Browns wide receiver. But Donovan Peoples Jones has been, if you look at his stats, man, he's averaged about 10 points a game all season. Somehow, some way. He has a few low games, but he'll just somehow get 10 points, 12 points. He's not getting 20, taking the top off. But if you want a guy because Dotson can be really touchdown dependent, he's not real high volume dependent. He's touchdown dependent at times. So he can, Dotson can get you 3 catches, 55 yards and a touchdown, type stuff versus McLaurin can get you that 10 to 12. But we're not even talking about McLaurin. But anyway, with Cooper, one thing about Cooper, I would definitely keep him. You got that Debo combo. Russ, man, maybe you can look for a better quarterback. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I know that's not what you were asking, but but just looking at your team and yeah, man, you got some solid backups. You got Algier. But anyway, just sticking to your question, man. I wouldn't drop. I definitely wouldn't drop Gallup for Dotson. And as far as like I said, Donovan People Jones, a good player to pick up. Um,
Yeah, I was just
Marquise,
gonna mention,
go ahead.
he has Kyler Murray. Just talking about quarterback, and he just brings that up. He does have Kyler. I would
Gotcha.
say Kyler is a better start for you than Russ because Russ is he just has not been Russ. He's just not been that team.
Yeah,
Gino has been Russ this year,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so I think
Good enough.
with Hopkins back in the lineup in Arizona, things are starting to look up a little bit for Kyler. They coming off a win. I think that yeah, I'm glad that the Eagles didn't face him with Hopkins. Let's just be honest. So yeah, and now, but the problem is they lost Ertz, so that was like a safety valve for Kyler. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then you
Oh,
got
he's injured. Did he get hurt last week?
he didn't play last week. I don't remember. I think it was like a hamstring or something like that.
Oh,
He didn't play.
I totally spaced
Colt
on that. I'm
McCoy.
sorry.
Colt McCoy played last
Oh,
week.
that's right. That's right. That's right. I remember that now. I didn't watch that game because I was watching I was watching Red
Yeah,
Zone and just watching back and forth.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
Good
it's a
old
good
Colt
one.
McCoy,
Sorry
man.
about that, Shane.
Uh,
I
yeah,
totally spaced on that.
yeah. He played last week, but yeah, man. I'm just trying to think of other guys, like maybe if Claypool is out there still, guys that have switched teams that may have dropped out. You got Claypool out there, Slayton from the Giants. He's been hot on the block. I mentioned Donovan Peoples Jones, but you have Amari Cooper. Um, yeah, man.
Palmer's still out there for the
Palmer, if he's still out
Chargers.
there, yeah,
Uh, a lot of people have snapped him up, but with their injuries to the wide receiver position, that might be somebody that you could drop for. If you're really serious about you're not happy with Gallup's production and you're looking for some sort of sleeper, that's probably where we'd go. Dotson is more of a risk. So, um, I just want to mention to all the podcast listeners, though, that we do fantasy football once a week. Normally, we don't broadcast that. We do that on a special show, but this week we're combining it with our Eagles Colts preview. So if we're doing some fantasy football, that's the reason why. We've got another question from Val's the Goat. Team is 4-6 right now. He's got Gino, Russ, good with Gino, Sutton, Gabe Davis, not bad. Hurst, Higby, Zeke, Watson, Hollywood, Slayton, not bad. Pacheco, Rashad White, who I both drafted both those guys, which I think is good on me. What should I do? Don't want to get the last 12 man. 5 people are tied at 4 and 6. Ooh, so you definitely Windsor at a premium. What do you think about this? Are you asking us who to start this week, or are you looking at moves that you can make?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too. Are you looking at who's your starting lineup? Um, yeah. So what do you I guess like what particular what specific advice were you looking for here? Who to start? If so, then maybe let us know what type of lineup variation you guys running your league. Because everybody's different. I know ours, we go one quarterback, two wide receivers, two running backs, a flex, defense, and then a kicker. We keep it real simple um, in our league. But you know, Rashard White, are they on a bye this week? Or the Bucks back? The
Yes,
Bucks
they
back?
are. They are, I believe. Well, let's see. Yeah, I believe they're on a bye this week.
Yeah, they're on a bye this week. So, and I know
They are.
Leonard Fournette was hurt. So, see, I'm looking to trade. Okay, there we go. Let's bring that up.
So let's bring that up. Yep. All right.
So I'm looking to trade. I think I should win this week. I'm going against the guy that had Cup and Ertz. Ooh,
Okay.
wow. So that's definitely a major a major come up. But said I'm looking to trade. I think I should win this week. I'm going up against a guy that had Cup. So you're looking to trade away.
So,
Who are you looking to pick up? Like, what is you looking to pick up
yeah.
wide receivers? You were looking to pick up running backs. Um,
If I look at his okay, so now knowing that, you got 5 people tied at 4 and 6. He's got some decent running backs here. With Zeke. Pacheco though is hit or miss. He's got such talent, but the Chiefs do not use him
right.
as much as they should. It's really frustrating because
Mhm.
he's definitely the best back on that team, in my opinion. They
Yeah.
just keep going to Edwards-Helaire. It's like, why? Rashad White though has gotten the Lions start, so you don't have to worry. He's got a bye this week, but you definitely want to keep him.
Yeah.
Um,
Because Fournette is hurt. He suffered a little injury. Remember, he was taped up or iced
right,
on
right.
his abdomen at that last game. But
Is they say how long he's going to be out?
they didn't say. They
But
didn't
Rashad was
necessarily
already starting to look good even before Fournette started to
100%.
struggle. Yeah, so he was
100%.
starting. So I would. So you're looking for some. Okay, so he's looking to trade. He didn't respond. So looking at that, I don't know what is on here that would be. Here we go. You got Saquon, Najee, Zeke for running back. I usually start Saquon and Najee. So I don't know if you're looking to upgrade at wide receiver. Maybe that's the case if you're looking at that, because if you've got Hollywood and Slayton, Gabe Davis, you want to keep. Hayden Hurst is with the Vegas doing the way they are. Hurst is on. No, that's Hunter Renfro. I'm thinking of.
Yeah, man.
So
If you're looking for like I said, if you're looking for a nice little trade, man, seems like let me see, Sutton, you don't really have that like standout wide receiver one. So maybe you should look to go get a wide receiver one. Um, maybe try to pick up Pittman. I'm just thinking about guys that are tradable that people may let go. Maybe Pittman out there at in Indy. Said maybe Rashad and one of them for an upgrade. Okay, so you're trying to let go Rashad and another person for an upgrade. Man, this is tough, man. This is tough. Um, because there's a lot of players out there on the waiver wire as well. So unless you can, maybe tell us who you're targeting, who you're looking to get out there, maybe a little more information. But as far as guys that are out there, like I told the last person, like I told Shane, man, Donovan Peoples Jones, Van Jefferson is out there. Um, you got Juju Smith that got hurt, and Marquez Valdez Scantley is still out there on the waiver wire in a lot of places. I doubt he plays this week. Juju, because he got hit pretty good. So I doubt he plays. And then you have Traylon Burks. There's a couple flyers out there. Yeah, man. If you can just, maybe tell us who you're trying to get, man, maybe we can help out a little bit better there. I don't know if you have any other advice for him, Lee.
well, just looking at through
Wide
as far as
receivers.
like trying to get a wide receiver, you've already got Gabe, so you don't want to package that with a deal. You're looking at what you've got, what you can give up at running back. So you need somebody who's running back poor, first of all, and to see what they've got, it's very unlikely that you're going to get a top tier wide receivers. You know, even T Higgins with the injury to Chase is like up there. So, like you said, Pittman is definitely in a possibility. Olave, maybe somebody would be willing to part with him because
Oh,
he's on a team that's not doing well. But if you watch Olave play, he puts up some numbers. You need somebody that is kind of in that B class that you can package something with. In Watson, am I assuming that's Deshaun? And if that's the case, then maybe if you've got Geno at QB, somebody wants Deshaun that's coming back, you know, and maybe quarterback poor, that you can get something like that. But other ones that we like we talked about, um, you may not be able to get a top tier wide receiver, but you may be able to get a number 2 wide receiver like a Curtis Samuel, Brandon Cooks, something like that, that would at least solidify your position without breaking your bank. So,
there you
oh,
go.
Christian Watson. Okay, not
Christian
Deshaun.
Watson.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
think you're going to get
Randy.
anything.
Remember that off of Coming to America.
Yeah,
Randy. Mr. Randy Watson. But nah, Christian Watkins, man, he came out that 3 touchdown, 4 catch game last week. So he
yeah,
was hot. He was hot on the waiver wire. I'm sure a lot of folks picked him up, man. It's a hell of a pickup.
yeah.
But yeah, man. Um, I see some here's some things, here's some trades that have went through like on Yahoo. Like people have traded Cortland Sutton for Juju, Michael Pittman for like Tyler Lockett, Andrews for Chase. Kelsey went for, oh, never mind, that's completely different.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's like the 2 best ones that I saw there, man. But yeah, man,
Yeah,
good luck. Good.
and
Oh, this
there's some other receivers out there, like we mentioned, Claypool, but be
mhm.
careful with Claypool. I've picked him up before
Oh,
he
true.
got traded to Chicago, and he does not really have a chemistry with Justin Fields right now, and they're not really throwing the ball that right now. Justin Fields is just taking off running with it, and it's definitely not going to Claypool yet. That could all change, so just keep an eye on that. All right, so we got Shane back again. Deontay Johnson for Gallup and Mitch. What are your thoughts on this, Dub?
I am. So looks like you have Gallup, just looking at the old messages. So you have
Mhm.
Gallup and Enich. Man, Steelers are very hard to trust. That passing game is hard to trust. I think they're going. You see a lot of the plays starting to go towards George Pickett's way. I'm sorry. Yeah, Pickens, right? I don't know.
Yeah, Pickens is doing really well. Yep. He had
The
that
wide
massive
receiver.
catch, couple yeah.
Yeah, the
He had
wide receiver.
massive catch a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah,
weeks
yeah,
ago.
man.
Yeah.
So with him and Dante Johnson, man, Dante Johnson was good when they had like Roethlisberger or like last
Mhm.
year when he was a high volume guy. I'm sure he's still having a good season this year. I wouldn't give up that. To answer your question, no, I wouldn't trade Gallup and Enich because Enich is playing good out there in Denver. He's
Yeah.
a rookie.
If it
He's
was
playing really
yeah,
well. And I think I'm sticking with Gallup. And if you can find any serviceable tight end, you should keep him. You should hold on to
yeah.
him, any of them. So that's my
If you
advice.
could do Gallup and Johnson straight up, then that's a different story, but
There you
yeah, if
go.
they're trying to package something, then but he does have favorable matchups, like I said, Deontay does in the next few weeks with Pittsburgh, so I get you on that. We still don't know what they've got, in Pickett and their quarterback, so that's tough because we really haven't seen him have, like, a breakout game yet. So,
Says, who's someone you think I can use to pick up?
I'm sure
Um,
he's still talking about the wide receiver.
yeah. Again, man, I think go back. Just look at some she was projected this week. Who's hot? Who's not? Yeah, it's like I said again, if Slayton is out there, you pick up Slayton. A lot of people have been high on Wendell Johnson. We got a little banged up last week. Gallup is actually still available in our league.
He is.
Yeah, man. Like I said, Van Jefferson's out there. If Cooper Cup goes down, the ball's going to go to either Allen Robinson or Van Jefferson for the most part. So that's always a good pickup there. And Tyler Higbee, if you have him, those catches are going to go up for sure. Also, someone offered me Andrews and Mark. Oh my bad. Andrews and Marquise for Kelsey. I'm not doing that. Now, because Hollywood
Uh,
Brown just came back. Hollywood Brown just came back off the IR. He's really not officially off it, but we'll see what happens. But Kelsey, no. Kelsey is still the number one guy in KC, especially with Juju going down, because some of those catches started going towards Juju way, where he was averaging about 8 to 10 a game. So Andrews, man, when he comes back, he's going to be same old guy. He's had a shoulder injury. It's not like a concussion or like a knee injury, So I think it was a shoulder injury. But anyway, man, I wouldn't make this trade. To trade Kelsey away, it's no point. It's just really no point when volume-wise, KC is going to throw the ball a lot more than Baltimore. Baltimore's a primary running team. So
Yeah, and
that is, man.
Andrews wasn't producing before he got hurt too, so it's like Kelsey's been the only really solid tight end out there. I mean,
Right.
Kittle's not even bringing in numbers. He's just not. Kelsey's
doing a little well now.
now that he's
changed teams. Hawkinson
And
is doing his thing.
Goddard was doing great until the injury.
Goddard was doing his thing. So he countered with Andrews and D-Hop. Kelsey, man, that may be if you can, you said you got some favorable matchups. If you could give yourself a little time, like if you can get through about 2 weeks to get Andrews back in the fold, because Baltimore's still making a playoff run. And with D-Hop, you will be better off there because Hopkins is putting up Kelsey numbers since he's been back. 10 catches a game. So you're getting that Kelsey production and you're getting that Andrews production. That's a double up, man. So I would make that trade. I would let Kelsey go for Andrews and D-Hop. Or you trying to you have Kelsey?
No, I think he said he had Kelsey. So yeah, so Kelsey. So he's trying to get the most value to kind of solidify his team for this playoff run. The one thing I will say is again, the Andrews and D-Hop, if it goes through, then yeah, if you already countered it, it goes through, then accept it. I will say be careful because you're trying to get a playoff spot. Don't let people take advantage of your desperation to get into the playoffs and not be one of these teams, the last man out, because it could make you make some bad moves. Believe me, I've been there. So you don't want to do that. All right, next question.
Two questions. Half PPR, Boyd or Williams at flex. Is it worth packaging one of those two with Kyler when I'm 8-2 for a better quarterback? And with Warzone coming out. It's been a distraction. It's even been a distraction for me. So half PPR, Boyd or Williams at the flex. So to start right there, if Mike Williams is healthy, I'm probably going to go Mike Williams because Keenan Allen is still struggling to get back. Joshua Palmer has been getting a lot of targets. But if Mike Williams is there, I'm going to take Mike Williams. Seems like they've been leaning a little more towards Mixon due to that injury. I'm at the flex. So is it worth packaging one of those two? So Boyd or Williams with Kyler when I'm 8-2 for a better quarterback. I think if you what quarterbacks would I get? I personally have the one and only and Patrick we trust.
Yeah, you're not going to get that. Yeah.
You're not going to get that. Especially for that and Kyler, because Kyler's coming off an injury as well, too. So people are probably already a little shaky about him. Really, the only quarterbacks worth trading for is Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. That they have been super consistent. Now, if the Bengals were a little more consistent offensively, I'm sorry, and Tua and Jalen. What am I talking about? Jalen Hurts.
Jalen's put up numbers.
Jalen's been, what am I? So, yeah, maybe if you can get Jalen Hurts.
Well, and especially after the loss, because people that are mad that he didn't put up the points against Washington and think that he may be on a slide.
Which he still had 3 touchdowns.
I know, it's crazy.
He still had the standard.
I don't know if
the standard has been just that high, scored in 12 straight quarters. But anyway, Jalen has definitely been putting up the numbers. Josh Allen, unless you can get Jalen, Josh Allen, Patty Mahomes, or what's his name? Another guy who's just throwing the ball, man. You may be able to stash Watson, I'm sorry, for the Browns. You may be able to stash Watkins. And then you may not even need to do a trade. And then when Watkins gets going, because I'm telling you, man, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Njoku at tight end, they're going to blow the top off because you got to still respect Chubb back there. So maybe you can get you a Browns quarterback, see what happens, because they're still in the mix.
Yep.
Real nasty team. They're still in the mix there. But yeah, man, if you can package them to get Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, one of those type of guys, then sure. But other than that, man, a lot of guys just haven't been consistent. No matter what their personnel looks like, man. So
Yeah, even like guys like Burrow and Herbert have not been putting up the numbers that you would think. So you really just got to look at the matchup and see what's out there. I think Kyler's okay now that Hopkins is back, but again, like you said, if you can't get a top tier guy, you may want to hold on to him. So Jamal Williams or Boyd. I in my opinion, I would go Boyd on that one. Um,
Man, I tell you what, man, Jamal
the-
Williams, even though Swift has been back, he's still just been carrying on. But
uh,
Boyd is just safer
yeah,
there because he has, a lot of history with Burrow. He's been there for a while. He's one of the captains on the wide receiver
yeah.
core. So he can get you those catches that Williams won't get. Williams is still touchdown dependent. So there, I agree with Lee, man. I would rock Boyd there
My
myself.
my main reason is matchup. You've got both of them on the road, but you've got Jamal at the Giants, and the Giants have been playing pretty good defense this year. It's one of the reasons they've been in so many games. And to me, Jamal Williams, yeah, even with DeAndre Swift, it may not be a great play. But Boyd, you got somebody filling the void for Jamar
Yeah,
Chase and Burrow. They're coming. I believe they're coming off a bye, so they need
coming
this
off a
win.
bye, playing
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
playing Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Pittsburgh,
I would go
afternoon
Boyd.
game,
Just my opinion, but yeah,
divisional afternoon game, short trip. Think, yeah, man. Yeah, I
yeah.
think Boyd could, Boyd, even when they was there, he's had 2 20+ games this year and a couple, mixed in, but he's definitely seen over 5 targets a game on average, pretty easy. So I would definitely stay with Boyd there, in the flex position.
It's going to be him or Higgins that'll go off. It may be both. I mean, Pittsburgh, the Eagles played Pittsburgh and really destroyed them. When Pittsburgh doesn't have an opponent that plays into their hands, their defense tends to give up a lot.
Yeah.
So that's another reason I would go Boyd. But anyway, if we don't have any other fantasy questions, we'll get back real quick. And while you're formulating your questions, by all means, keep them coming if you got them. But let's look back at the Eagles game coming up on Sunday against Indianapolis. And like we left off, we have Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh just named as Eagles. More than likely, all signs point to they play on Sunday to solidify because we're going up against JT. Going to putting up some. Actually, with Jeff Saturday as the new coach, it's like they've gone back to basics. They're going to pound the ground with JT and just let Ryan do what he has to do to try to solidify a win and play defense, which is the basics of every single NFL team. And they did it last week against Vegas. Granted, they won by 5, but they won. So they're going to be looking at the Eagles coming into town after losing to Washington and giving up a ton of yards. What do you think that they're going to do? They're going to run the ball like crazy. And so getting Sue and Linval Joseph is huge. But we've got one constant in this mix that is going to be a problem for the Eagles, and that's our defensive coordinator, because here he is after the news came out that we got Linval Joseph, and Jonathan Gannon's already trying to figure out how to drop him back into zone coverage. That's basically what Gannon is doing. We watched the game, and it's like we talked about it, after the Washington game. We've watched this guy for 2 years now, and granted, people are like, "Oh man, look at his defense." People, I'm just going to say this right now. We have some of the best athletic defensive players that the Eagles have had on the field at the same time in a very long time. James Bradbury, Darius Slay, Ceedee, CJ Gardner Johnson, Hassan Reddick, Hargrave, Brendan Graham, Josh Sweat. The list goes on. We have TJ Edwards, Kazir White. We have got a great defense. These guys could play in the worst of schemes and
Yep.
still intercept the ball and still win games. The problem is if you watch the games as an Eagle fan this year, when they're on defense, it is this constant reverting to the shell where they're playing so far off the ball, the defenders can't make a play. And we saw it against Washington, and you actually sent me a little bit of a kind of a diagram to break down on the defense from Washington. And so let's take a look at that. I mean, you got an example of the defensive formations that they put trotted out. Now, you look at this. You got 4 down linemen, you got 2 linebackers, and then you've got your single high in this example. But I just don't see how you stop the run in that kind of formation.
And
What do
more
you see?
importantly, well, one of the biggest diagrams here and the biggest glaring thing is that we only have 10 men on the
Oh,
field.
yeah. Yeah.
So if
Twice.
you think we can stop them, we couldn't stop them with 11. Look at these downs and distance, right? Look at the game, right? So the Eagles go down and score. Right now, they're coming to get their get back. And then look at it. 10 guys on the field. So then, so then you look down, boom, we score. It just showed 2 situations where Gannon, you have 10 weeks to prepare for this game. You have 10 days to prepare for this game. And in the first quarter, first half, you're not even running out full packages of personnel. That is just completely unacceptable from a professional standpoint. That's
Exactly right.
literally not doing your job. As a referee, when I officiate games, football, one of my jobs is to count. If I'm the back judge, I have to count the 11 on defense. If you're like the ump or the white hat, they count the 11 on offense. And you put your hand up and let you know. And anyway, it's the way the refs communicate 11 on 11. But my point is that this just comes from our lack of preparation to stop the run. How do you have 10 days after the Texans game? See, if nobody was running the ball on us and then boom, we came out and this happened to us where they ran the ball 49 times. They ran the ball 49 times on us, brother. 49 times. They were very determined that they were going to run the football because they knew it worked. They knew that you showed the stat earlier. Without Jordan Davis, we're giving up over 5 yards a carry. That's simple math. You don't even have to be a great coach to know that. 5 plus 1, 5.1 plus 5.1. That's 2 carry. That's our first down. That you don't even have to be that smart to know that. You just have to know that, oh, they're still in this formation. Oh, they're still getting it up. Let's just keep running the ball. So I was a little bit disappointed at our preparation in the game and just showing that it's 2 drives where there's 10 men on the field is completely unacceptable, man. Completely
Yeah,
unacceptable.
and even when he had 11, it was the fact that they had that just 4 down linemen, and a lot of times they'll bring Hassan Reddick down and make it 5, but we had, Edwards and White just kinda left hung out to dry at the second level, and it was really just a matter of your offensive line pinching off to one side, being able to create a gap, and it wasn't the fact that their guys were busting through like Pierce did for 50, 60 yards. It was the constant grinding of 4 yards a carry because our front 4 could not get anything blocked off. Now, my worry is that Gannon is gonna see, "Oh, I've got Linval Joseph and I've got Ndamukong Suh now. I can just put them in there and everything's gonna be okay." That's not how it's gonna work, dude. You're still gonna have to change your scheme. You're still gonna have to figure out and watch the trends and how to stop the run.
Right.
It is a balancing act, and I'm not saying that I could do it better. Well, a lot of people could do it better than Jonathan Gannon. We've seen it. Guys like Del Rio, who coaches the Washington defense exceptionally well with not as many horses as the Eagles have. Let's just put it out there. And there's other coaches. So it's elementary. We've talked about Gannon before. And the bottom line is the shell coverage has taken the NFL by storm, and it's not good. We're
Right.
seeing a lot of these things where this bend and don't break. So while the points haven't risen in the NFL, we're seeing a lot of completion rates go up because of the soft zone, bend but don't break defenses. I, for one, can't stand it. So, we just had a little quick thanks for your help from Shane Jacobs. You guys are
I
welcome.
just two up here if you want to jump into this one.
Yep, yep. We've got another fantasy, so we're gonna break away real quick. Let's come back here. And we've got Caden the Colts fan. He's back again. And he's looking trading Henry and Higgins for Taylor and Olave. That's almost to me almost a wash. What do you think about that?
Man.
I'm assuming, Caden, do you have Henry? Just yes or no. You have the Henry and Higgins? I'm assuming you do.
Henry and Higgins for man.
He
Start
loves Taylor. He's a Colts fan, so they're taking advantage of him. By the way, good luck on Sunday, but I don't really mean that. Just saying. But I will say good luck and be nice. But yeah, you love Taylor, and they're taking advantage of that. This is a tough one because Henry has had an amazing season so far. He is super dependable. You should know this if you've got him. Higgins with Chase out got the potential to put up big numbers, and Taylor has not really produced until the Raiders game as what we thought he would, as far as where he was drafted by a lot of fantasy drafts. And so this person's kind of betting on him having one good game and seeing if he can snag Derrick Henry off of you. So I know I'd be careful of this one as much as you love Taylor. That being said, and now I'm going to do the where I mess with your head. We don't know what Jeff Saturday is going to do as head coach. I mean, we saw against the Raiders, he went back to basics. I expect that's what we're going to see the rest of the season, where he's going to do a heavy emphasis on the run, which could change things entirely. And I'm assuming your trade deadline's coming up, so you kind of got to do this like now. So, me personally, if I had Henry, I wouldn't let him go. But again, you've got that where you've got the sentimental pick.
Yeah.
I will say this too. As an Eagles fan, I have a hard time having Eagles on my team because I do the whole superstitious jinx thing where I think that if I play them, they're going to do poorly because I have such bad luck. I can't put him in my lineup. I don't want to curse him that way, but that's just me. If you love him and want your team, go for it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
If I have Henry, there's a few reasons why I wouldn't give him up for Taylor. I think the Higgins and the Lave, that's kind of pick your choice. I think that's kind of a wash. I think the whole trade is a bit of a wash, but I think here's why I think Derrick Henry has slight more upside to keep him on your roster. He has went 6 straight weeks of over 16 points. Jonathan Taylor has missed some significant time this year. Henry is short. I mean, Henry went, starting week 3, because mind you, he was hurt the end of last year. So Henry still had to kind of come into this year off that foot injury. And, he played in the playoffs. I get that. But he goes 25, 23, 27, 16, 35, 23. I mean, bruh, that's like 2 players in one right there. So if I have Henry, that's one of the reasons why I'm not giving him up for Taylor. One of my second reasons is that Tennessee is still in the playoff hunt and they can still be in the playoffs. So they have something to play for. If the Colts slide at any point this season, they can shut Taylor down. You get into the playoffs or need somebody deep into the season, and that guy's not playing. I think that may happen to me with like Devontae Adams. The Raiders keep playing poorly enough. I don't expect Devontae Adams to be playing in week 17 or 16 when I need him for the championship. So there's other things to worry about as well too. It's not like production right now, but production later as well too. So yeah, man, Wiggins, as long as Chase is out, I like Higgins. He's a monster, man. I remember when he was at Tennessee. But anyway, T. Higgins is a great player. A lot of young players, he gets a lot of attention, but they have a little quarterback carousel. No matter who you start with the Saints, man, it's really no telling what you're going to get out of those quarterbacks there. So, but you know what you're going to get out of Henry, and you definitely know. So yeah, man, you can don't let that love cloud your judgment, man. Don't let that love cloud your judgment. I don't even pick Eagles players for the most part because I just maybe a kicker or defense, but for the most part, I don't want to watch the game in that way. It makes me like throw the ball to Goddard, throw the ball to Goddard, and it's like not even a play where it should go to Goddard. I did that last year with Smith, and it was just miserable watching the game and him not getting the ball, and just maybe not enjoy the game. And I shouldn't even be watching the game like that. I should just be watching the entire game, not just the guy.
Yeah, I had Smith earlier, and I traded him for the same reason, is that I put him in for 1 week, and AJ got all the catches, and I went, I'm done with it. I'm not even gonna mess with it. But yeah, Caden, I tell you, Colts are looking up, but you did beat the Raiders, so you got to look at who their offense looked revitalized against. It was the Raiders. And the Raiders, to me, I'm just going to put this out there about the Raiders. I think McDaniels is tanking. I think he's doing everything he can to lose these games.
Yeah.
He knows he's not going anywhere. He wants to rebuild this team, maybe with a new franchise quarterback. Josh Jacobs, he can build around a little bit. But I think and Devontae Adams, I don't think he wants Carr there, but that's just me. So I think anytime the Vegas loses, it's suspicious to me. I just think that McDaniels is not giving his all right now. Remember tanking for Tua with the Dolphins? I think this is a similar thing. I think they're just looking for draft capital. But yeah, so anyway, Shane's back. He's wanting to know if he should drop Isaiah McKenzie for Burkers.
So I think this is Trey Burke coming off the IR. Man, I don't know. I think the upside is higher with Trey Burks. Isaiah McKenzie, he was touchdown dependent. He went on a bit of a run this year where he was scoring touchdowns. I started, he catches a concussion and doesn't return to the field for like a couple weeks. So maybe Traylon Burks. I wouldn't drop Isaiah McKenzie, pick up Traylon Burks. I think the risk is worth it. I think the risk is worth it because but unless you're Stephon Diggs, you're not going to have a consistent week with Buffalo. As much as Josh Allen throws the ball, it doesn't really spread it too much. Because I thought Knox would be having a better season at tight end, but he's been injured a little bit too. But I definitely I wouldn't mind dropping Isaiah McKenzie to see what Traylon Burke has for the rest of the year. And again, it's a playoff team. Both of them are playoff teams, so these guys are going to get some touches. Going back to Caden, the Colts fan, team is Tua, Henry, Cook, Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, Schultz, Higgins. Anything I should do before the deadline? Let me think. Hopkins, Cook, Henry, CeeDee, Schultz.
Nothing with that lineup, in my opinion. Me personally.
Because Tua has been cooking, man. Tua has been absolutely cooking. He has some of the best weapons in the league. Surprise. You ever notice it's like a great wide receiver associated with a quarterback that's having a good year? You have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. And a lot of backs that can catch the ball, but out of the backfield for sure.
So, they got rid of Edmonds, but then get Jeff Wilson and friggin' from Fort, and they've already got Mostert. That team is on fire right now. My son is a Dolphins fan. Not by my choice. I just let my kids pick whatever team they want. I didn't say you got to be an Eagles fan. All I said was you can't be a Cowboys fan. That's the only thing I said. Can't be anybody in the NFC East. So my son is a Dolphins fan, and he is on cloud 9 right now. So Tua is definitely, especially with the ability, the mobility, and everything. You're good. You're not, like we talked about earlier. There are not that many marquee quarterbacks this year in fantasy. You got Mahomes and Allen, and Tua's up there with Jalen Hurts as those that everybody wants right now and can't get a hold of. So I definitely think you're good there. Henry, of course, solid. Cook is up and down. I have Dalvin Cook, and some weeks, man, you get those 29 points, which is like, and then some weeks you get 5. And that's just the way the Vikings roll sometimes. I just like this lineup. I would kill for a lineup like this right now.
Yeah, man. Your lineup looks almost as good as mine's, man.
Yeah, exactly. I've been bitten by the injury bug and just bad games, but we're not going to talk about that. I didn't even put my scores from last week up. I'm done out of my league. So he's talking about Burks, I think, a start this week if he drops him.
Man,
it depends on who did you look at the right? We looked at the rest of his roster earlier, but maybe as a flex.
But they're playing Green Bay tonight. That's the problem. In about an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes.
So if you're going to pick him up, you gotta. I know this is why. I wouldn't. It's a tough call. Is it, man? I don't know. You better off.
You got to make a decision.
Because you have to make a decision right now. But you know what? Whatever. It's fantasy football. People make predictions all the time. I think Trey Burks can be worth to pick up. In my opinion. And hey, man, what more way to get your adrenaline up than to pick up a guy, start him, and watch him in an hour and a half later, see how well he does. So, man.
just one thing I always look at, just Shane, just to think about, and I'm not disagreeing with Tubby here because he was the high scorer last week and he is high up in our league. But the Packers do have, believe it or not, right now, the number one pass defense in the NFL, only allowing 190 yards per game.
Wow.
So, and the Titans right now have the 31st passing offense, only getting 165 yards per game because they're so dependent on Henry. So just something to think about before you pull the trigger on
At
starting.
least for tonight.
Yeah, at least for tonight, because you're going up against a really good. I mean, look what they did to Dak. Dak had that lead, and then they shut him down, and they came from behind and won it. So I would be worried just a little bit about that.
Mhm. But they're
All
both
right,
projected to get the same amount of points, McKenzie or Traylon Burks, both around 9 points
and
projection.
you're
So
right,
see what
Caden.
happens.
Tua is on a bye. We're just talking about your potential with your team. So I
Yeah.
don't know who you got. Daniel Jones this week against the Lions. You're good. Their pass defense to me has been a very very spotty. I mean, so many teams have put up points on them.
Yeah.
Their offense can hang with just about any team out there. They showed that with the Bears. They showed it with the Eagles. They showed it with the Cowboys. It's
Yeah.
just that their defense, man. So you should be okay with Daniel Jones. That's a good risk. All right. So
All right.
back to the Eagles. We're just going to real quick. We were talking about Gannon before we stepped away to do the fantasy thing, and with Gannon, like I said, we has this quote that you sent me, and this one doesn't make a lot of sense to me, dude. It's like, I don't like when our defense makes our offense sit on the bench for 10 plus minutes. Well, you made them sit on the bench for 40 plus minutes the entire game. The Eagles only had the ball for 6 minutes in the first half of the Commanders game. I don't even care if you make them kick a field goal because it's all about points. Wait a minute. If we're trying to get the ball back for the offense, we want our team crossing
Not
their
even.
team crossing midfield. What
Not
does
even.
that mean? This is the
Exactly.
bend but don't break crap that he's talking about.
Yeah,
What
good
he
point.
wants is to get the team to come down the field, kick a field. No, we don't want them to cross midfield, dude.
Good point.
We got to get our offense back, the ball back, and that's what we'll work on this week. Yes, dude, you need to work on getting the ball back. The Eagles did it a lot. And if you go back to the Dallas game, a part of that was the fact that the Dallas game was to me the best the Eagles could play in the season. They came out and put a lot of heavy pressure on Cooper Rush, forcing those mistakes. Um, and then in the second half, what did they do? They did typical Gannon work. And that's why Dallas Cowboys fans are so up in arms that they can beat the Eagles because of Gannon. Because if Gannon doesn't take the foot off the gas and start putting us into that cover, they started off so hot.
Right.
Nothing but pressure, forcing mistakes, getting the turnovers, setting up field position to score points. Then as soon as they had a big lead, we're going to go to the shell coverage because the shell coverage is all I know, is what Jonathan Gannon says. And
Mhm.
it drives me up the wall, dude. And so if you're an Eagles fan, you know this. We've covered it. We've covered it ad nauseum about what this guy loves to do. He is convinced that nothing but the shell coverage will work. And he does the other things as kind of a bait or just a gimmick to get themselves going based on matchups. Then he always falls back on the shell coverage. And in Washington, it cost him the game. I got another quick question for you going into the Colts game. And this is one that was posed on A2D radio. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pose this question on the Eagles podcast, the Where Eagles Dare podcast. N'Kobe Dean, should this guy start or what? Should we give him a chance
I
or
think
what?
it I seen a post where it said maybe it's time to take the bubble wrap off of Dean. I mean, you picked this guy in the third round. Now, I'm not saying like, third round is the most ridiculous spot to pick somebody, but third round, you still getting high quality players. There is no I don't understand why he isn't taking the field more. Now I wouldn't start him over, but then again I do. I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Excuse me. Would I start him over TJ Edwards? I wouldn't. Would I start him over Kazir White? No. Can he rush like Hassan Reddick? It's not even comparable. So I think he's just stuck in a lot of things you talked about, which is that that two linebacker set. So it's like really, unless they're going to bench Kazir or TJ, but then it's like, how does he never get any burn at all. Where most of the time you see him, he's on like special teams. That's if they're dressing him.
Yes.
So
Just rotate in, give him a chance. I'm not talking about starting him. I'm just talking about get him on the field.
put him
He's
at kick
only playing.
return.
Yeah. Well, Covey, here's the thing that's going to be really interesting is that Covey's injured this week. He's
It's
questionable for Colts game. So I'm hoping we get Greg Ward up so that we have somebody that can return kicks. That's a
yeah.
whole nother topic.
Oh
Friggin'
man,
our
like
return game
troll.
is
I've been saying that since the start of last year. When
horrible.
your team is losing, nobody wants to hear about special teams. When you're 2-5, nobody wants to hear about it. But I feel like since week 1 of last year, I've been saying we get absolutely nothing from our special teams, and it's completely overlooked. It's too over. I almost like, man, am I being petty about this? Am I being OCD about something that's not important? But when I watch games and you see the guys even get their guys to the 33, the 35. It's like we get that ball from the 25 and under every time. Every time I seen Covey get the ball at the 3-yard line and we make it to the 17, it's like, wow. And it's like he just runs right in the tackles every time. He'll have like an outside lane and he'll just cut back
Oh
and just
yeah.
go down super easy. I just don't understand his rhyme or reason. I don't understand what's his game plan. Like when he gets the ball, it's like, bro, what is your game plan?
I don't understand why he's out there. I watched the game again, the Commanders game, where he had a wide open seam down the sidelines, and yeah, like you said, he cut it right back into the teeth of the kicking team, and it was like, "What, dude? What are you doing? Do you
Yeah.
not want to get past the 30?" So yeah, I mean, we've got teams out there that kind of player makes a difference. If you just even if you could just get to the 40, that's 20 yards that we didn't have. Just and I'm not asking every time, but
And
dude never gets past the 20. And
bro.
and it's like, the only thing he does well is he doesn't fumble, and I've said that before. That's the
Mhm,
only thing, is that
mhm.
he can fair catch with the best of them, and that's about all he does. So, yeah, I think that's right. Going back to Dean, though, I think that it's just a matter of we're hurting for run stoppers, we're hurting for a little bit of aggression. This guy is a rookie for sure, and I know you don't want to get him hurt. He had an injury at Georgia that we were worried about coming into camp, but the season's half over. It is time to let this guy play, especially with all the injuries to the Eagles players. Do we have to wait until Kazir White or Edwards gets hurt before we give this guy a shot?
Yeah, good
I'm gonna
point.
say no. Bring this guy in and keep your linebackers fresh to stop the run. But anyway, I'm not the defensive coordinator. The guy with the clipboard that wants to put everybody into zone coverage is. So that's all we can say about that. But looking at this Colts team, so now just breaking it down into this Colts team, let's look at their last 5 games that each have had. Of course, we know the Eagles coming off a loss. We had a little bit of a challenge with the Texans, not much. Blew out the Steelers, beat the Cowboys, and beat the Cardinals with the missed field goal at the end of the game. So solid games for the Eagles. But if you really look at what the Colts have done the last 5 weeks, outside of getting beaten by the Patriots on the road, which that was a bad game for them, 26-3. That's what got Reich fired. But if you look at it, they lost to the Commanders by only 1 point. They lost to the Titans by 9 on the road, and they beat the Jaguars 34-17, who we beat. This is a team that's also beaten the Colts. So, to me, going into this game, a lot of people, the Eagles are 6.5 point favorites, 7
Mhm.
in some places. So a lot of people are really heavy on the Eagles this week as a bounce back game. I'm not overlooking this team. This team has got weapons. They've just not been utilized properly.
Right.
And this is a team that was close to the playoffs last year before Wentz crapped it away because he couldn't really connect on a few passes. This is a decent football team. I don't want to say a great football team, but
Yeah.
this is a football team that can win. And if we break it down further and you look at their rankings, because I've just put up their basic rankings.
Mhm.
If you look at the Eagles' offense is fourth in the league. I'm talking about on the right hand side, and the Colts are fourth in defense right now, overall defense. They're fifth in pass defense, and they're 10th in rushing defense.
Wow.
That ought to wake you up a little
Yeah.
bit. Now, if you look on the offensive side, they're 24th overall in offense, ninth in passing, 28th in rushing. That is ridiculous. How are they 28th in rushing with Taylor? And now I know he's been hurt, but
Right.
Still 28th. So that's going to change with Jeff Saturday. They've got players. This worries me a little bit. I'm going to this game on the road and I want the Eagles to win. It's not a given. This is going to be this is not a walkover. This is not a walkover. This is going to be a challenging game.
Yeah, man. You can I if we don't stop Taylor, this is going to be a long. It's going to feel like the Washington game, where it just
Yeah.
felt like the longest game ever, man. Where our guys just could not get the ball back to do anything. And I at least appreciate that at least talked about it. Like, man, our guys are sitting. It throws off the sync. Basically, since we aren't doing our job, it throws off the whole game. Now our guys are going out there and they're pressing. Um, we basically, where we have to stop Jonathan Taylor is not like it's not like Matt Ryan, who I'm laughing because he had a 39-yard run last week. But I'm like, if Matt Ryan, basically, we should be teeing off on Matt Ryan. If he wants to step up in the box and get hit, that's on him. And run outside, that's on him. But I believe his lack of mobility is what got him bounced out of Atlanta, because he would just kind of sit there, take the sack. And even when we beat them last year in week 1, that's kind of how we beat them. Keeping them in the pocket, keeping the pressure on, took a few sacks. Yeah, man, we just have to stay balanced. Because last week, man, Slay, I got to bring Slay to the floor. Slay gave up 6 catches for 104 yards last week. That is just unacceptable. Completely unacceptable, man. Our top guy got absolutely roasted. I don't know if it was a scheme issue. I don't know if they got rocked to sleep because the run was so effective, and then all of a sudden, I got to defend the pass. I don't know if that threw him out of rhythm, but you're all pro. You're supposed to stay ready.
Right.
And then Taylor goes for 147 last week, man. That's major.
Mm-hmm.
He went for 147 last week, and I really think that if he's on this game, we can have a lot of problems, man. And we can just not play well in this game just simply because we can't stop Taylor. So hopefully Sue comes in, Joseph comes in. He's one of those guys that'll lean on the player a little extra when he gets up. We just, accept a couple penalties from Sue. If he gets 2 penalties, it's just Sue. It's
Yep.
just Sue being Sue. There's some things you got to deal with. He's making up for Barnett not being there right now. So, and Barnett's only 26. So
Yeah.
we got a lot of old guys coming in. That's my only concern, is their ability to play every down. Most of our good guys are, Quinn, who we just picked up, he's 31. He's one of
Yeah.
the youngest out there, out of the
Eh,
old guys.
We haven't seen anything from Quinn, so you
Right.
make a good point. I do want to, because we haven't really talked about the new acquisitions. We have talked about their age. To me, whether you think it's a great or pickup or bad, a lot of people don't like the Sue pickup. Oh, by the way, Cade and Luke, we're going to get to your question in just a minute, because we're not done with fantasy today. We're going to get back on that. We're just finishing up this on the Eagles Colts preview. But yeah, a lot of people don't like the Sue pickup because of the history. He stepped on a few crotches in his time. He's bitten a few players. But that's, like you said, that's always been his game. The intensity has always been there. And I
Right.
think that there was once upon a time remember when he was a big free agent, I think it was before he went to Miami, that he was like, I'll play for the Eagles for free.
Oh, yeah. I remember
He's
that.
wanted to come to Philly for a long time. So for me, yeah, he's got a reputation, but he also has a desire to want to play. So, and again, like you said, Quinn and Joseph, all of them older. We need to see something from them. They're all on 1-year deals. They probably won't be back next season. Maybe we might throw one of them a bone again for depth purposes. But these guys are all kind of trying to prove it, that they still got something in the tank. So this is the perfect time, in my opinion, for Joseph and Sue to come into this game. They haven't played half a season. They don't have the wear on their bodies that everybody else has done, including Quinn. So
Mhm.
they've got something to prove. And I think that this game against Indy on Sunday, you're right. The Eagles need to come out with like the Dallas intensity, the massive Dallas intensity that they had, and be able to stop Taylor from getting yard 1, and like you said, force Ryan to throw from the pocket. And as far as Slay goes, yeah, he had a bad game against Washington, and I think it was a bad game and scheme. But this guy's been solid the entire year. He's all right, due for a bad game. Let's get the head out and start moving going forward. All right, so let's hit back to the fantasy real quick before we finish up with the Colts Eagles preview. Let's see. We've got a question from Caden Luke. If you're still with us, I hope you still are. He's looking to start 2 out of these 4: Pittman, Sutton, Ayuk, and Watson.
I'm going Pittman Sutton.
Yeah.
With the Jerry Judy injury, even though they said it wasn't serious, I'm going Sutton. I think Sutton's a good receiver, period. He just needs to get the ball more because before Judy got drafted and was showing out, Sutton was the man there. So I'm going Cortland Sutton and Michael Pittman. Ayuk is good, but that ball's being spread out around a little more. I went against Ayuk last week in fantasy. He got tripped up right at the 1 yard line. I was so happy that he didn't score. So he's a big player, but for consistency, I'm going Sutton and Pittman. What you think, Lee?
Well, I definitely here my thing and if I have somebody going against the Eagle, and I know the Eagles defense covers well and picks off the ball. We've got CD, we've got Bradbury, we got Slay. They do run really well with wide receivers. However, the soft zone coverage, one receiver, usually the top dog, like McLaren did. McLaren had 140 on us last week.
Ridiculous.
Tends to do well. Now we shut Justin Jefferson down, but that was early in the season. The soft zone tends to kill us. So I think Pittman to me is definitely worth the start there. With Watson, I kind of look at where I'm looking at the Tennessee defense, and I'm trying to see they're right now 32nd ranked pass defense. So to me, I think one of the reasons I took Green Bay in this game tonight is not only because I think they're on a starting to get on a run like Aaron Rodgers does, is they've got some favorable matchups, and I think Tennessee, even though Tennessee can run the game on them, I think that the Green Bay is going to sneak up. So me personally, I would go Watson only because you're facing the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL as far as passing. So I would start Pittman and Watson, in my opinion. Ayuk is not a bad one either. You can't overlook Ayuk. I tell you what, I have Debo, and I can't tell you how many times I've screamed at my TV when Garoppolo throws to Ayuk over Debo. So many times they're trying to get Debo involved in the offense, but all they do is end arounds, and it seems like he's double covered every time, and Ayuk's always open. Their matchup, they're playing. Are they playing Arizona this week? I think they're playing Arizona, right? Let me look that up real quick, just quick. I think they're playing. Yeah, they're playing Arizona. So that's another one to really look at. I do still like Pittman and Watson, but you've only got you got an hour before the game starts to make up your mind. But Arizona, their pass defense is 25th in the league, giving up 261 yards a game. So that's another possibility. Ayuk, but you got to worry about Kittle getting catches. You got to worry about Debo getting catches. With Watson, I don't know. I think that Rodgers found a hero. I mean, the guy went off for an amazing game. So against
anytime a player has just as many catches as touchdowns, I always get a little weary.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, four catches, 3 touchdowns, and I'm just like, man, is he like touchdown dependent?
Yeah.
I just think we don't have a big enough sample size from
That's a good
Watson
point.
to know what he can do consistently. We know Pittman's getting the ball out there at the Colts if he's healthy.
Yep.
And Sutton, because of the Judy injury, is kind of the top dog. Ayuk as well. So I'm like, it's a toss up between Sutton and Ayuk.
Yeah.
Well, I think Watkins is a good risk reward, man. Because if you hit, you you do like you did last week, and because they got a lot of old guys that's washed, but Alan Lazard can still snipe away a few things. So that's how I feel.
I'll say this is I'm a little biased against Sutton because I've had him in our league, and his last game he had 12 points. Before that against Jacksonville he had 2. Before that against the Jets he had 5. Before that against the Chargers he had 3. This is in our league, and then you got to go all the way back to week 5 against Indy where he had 12 again. He started off hot, and then he's let me down each and every week to where he's found himself on my bench.
Okay.
And the main reason is not Sutton, it's Russ.
Right.
It seems like he cannot find a clue out there. So Tubby, like you said, he's said Pittman or Sutton or Ayuk. I would go I think he made a good point with Watson. So it's really tough between Watson and Ayuk. And if you want to go with the conservative and not take too much of a risk and give yourself a sure thing, Pittman and Ayuk probably the best for you. Because I think, and then you hold off. I love it when you hold off. You got one guy on Monday night and you make the other guy sweat. That's a lot of fun, man.
Oh man.
Because if you're not trailing, you've already won it, and you still got a player on your bench.
Yeah.
So now, if you run the guy on tonight, Thursday night, now watch Watson will go off and he'll be cursing our name.
Man.
But this is the way fantasy works. All right, let's go on to Michael Bernardo. He's got an 8-man standard league. Lost Cup to injury. Tier, that sucks, man. I feel for you. I've lost a few this year myself. He's left with T. Higgins at wide receiver 1. Not too bad with Chase being out. Also, would you want to upgrade over Kyler Murray? Probably. Got offered Amari, Burrow, and Komet, and he's got Kelsey at tight end. So that's a big package deal. They really want your tight end. They need it, apparently. Would you take it? So I'll give mine first, and I'll let over Tubby. I've had Burrow this year, and he's had 425 yards in a 60-point game, and he's also had low 20-point games. So when Chase went down, it kind of affected his overall production. I think you know this if you've got T. Higgins at wide receiver 1. So you've been kind of keeping an eye on that. However, it's tough because Kyler Murray, I don't know what Kyler Murray is going to do once he comes back from the injury and D-Hop is on the field. He did lose Ertz, which we've got to factor in. But he has he has some good players out there.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one. I think if you're hurt, if he's only got T. Higgins at wide receiver 1, then having Amari coming in with Deshaun Watson coming in as your quarterback, I would consider it, but I would also see if Watson's out there on the waiver wire just as a safeguard, because Burrow would be great, but Watson would be better in my opinion. We don't know what Watson's going to do, but I think Watson's going to do big things. What do you think, Dub?
I think, since you're in an 8-man league, you're in an
Good point.
8-person league, there should still be some solid quarterbacks out there. Aaron Rodgers has had a little bit of a resurgence. I mean, you see what he did last week, because I know he's on a lot of people's waiver wire right now, Aaron Rodgers. And I would imagine an 8-man league. Man, I'm sure it's even more people out there just floating out there, man. So here's the thing, man. You can do some cheeky things like pick up Justin Fields if nobody has him. He's been putting up numbers. I don't know if Chicago, how many games Chicago going to win, but we talking strictly fantasy football. And Justin Fields is looking like Michael Vick out there or something, man. Like I said, see if Aaron Rodgers is like there if you want to do that upgrade. Like Lee said, try to pick up Watkins. Yeah, man, Brady may still be available in a lot of leagues, which he is. Pick him back up. They're about to make this big playoff push. I think those are some players that you can upgrade with. Got offered Amari Cooper, Joe Burrow, Komet for Kelsey. Because you're not in a PPR league, I would do this because you're just talking about the yards there when it comes to Kelsey. And Komet has been getting a lot of touchdowns, and he's been getting some solid yards. Where Kelsey gets you is that even if he doesn't score, which he scores a lot, he'll still eat you up on 10 catches in a PPR league. You got Amari Cooper with who's the number 1 receiver, and with Watson coming back, they're going to take the top off, man. And then you have Burrow, who can perform his ass off, man. So I think I would take this trade personally. And in a non PPR league, I'm taking this trade personally. But the only downside is it inflates your roster. Now you have 3 more players on your roster, and you may have to drop somebody else that's pretty consistent. So
The
what
way
I
I
do
see
it,
it, if he's going Komet for Kelsey, so that's 1 for 1. He's only got T. Higgins at wide receiver, so he's going to get Amari as a wide receiver 2.
right?
Probably wide receiver 1 and T. Higgins are up to 2. And then he's upgrading Murray. So he
Think he'll
probably have
drop
Murray on
him?
his.
I wonder
Yeah,
if
he
he'll
could
drop
drop him or have Burrow on his bench. I honestly, like I say, if you're an 8-man league that's only 16 quarterbacks, anybody who's carrying more than 2 is crazy.
him.
So you
Right?
may want to see what you got out there, and if Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson's available, put him on your bench instead. Because I guarantee you, by the end of the season, I think Watson will have a higher numbers than Murray will. Just saying. I think Murray is a capable quarterback, but I don't know about the fantasy numbers as far as
Right.
that. Even with D-Hop in the league, it's
Yeah.
not bad.
You know,
But I think Watson would be better.
for Burrow, we're in a for Burrow in our league. Um, you got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts is third, Joe Burrow is fourth. So if you pick up Burrow, you're picking up the fourth best receiver. I'm sorry, quarterback. Statistically. Now I know our
Yep.
point system is a little bit different because we have a different league. We give like points for first downs and stuff like that. I'm not sure how yours go, but in the real world, Joe Burrow's the fourth best fantasy football quarterback right now, and that's with losing his number one wide receiver. So just to give you some perspective there, maybe Jalen Hurts is out there. That would be wild if he was. I mean, because at some point you would have to pick him up. I mean, he's been balling.
Yeah, he's got to
So
be in
yeah,
that league.
yeah,
But
I doubt
anyway,
he's
that's our advice.
there. You
Kelsey is great to have, but you've got offered some pretty good value, especially if you're hurting at wide receiver. So good luck with that. Especially with losing Cup, I feel for you. That just probably turned your whole world upside down. And this
go.
could be why they're kind of making that offer because they need some help. If both guys win, then that's a good way to look at it. All right, we've got about 15 more minutes left, so we're going to take some more questions on the fantasy side. We've got Super C and B challengers. He's like, you pick two: Mike Williams, Palmer, Watson, Pickens, DPJ this week in a PPR league. Like Williams coming back. We talked about Watson a minute ago as far as it could be a good thing, but like you said, when the catches equal touchdowns, you got to have a little bit of trepidation there. I
Right,
like Palmer, but the problem is, do you want two on the same? So I
right.
don't know if I would go that way. Palmer was good when there was no Keenan Allen, when there was no Williams out there, taken away from that. I don't know. I think Williams is the better receiver.
Yeah. Um,
I like Pickens.
I like Donovan Peoples Jones, man. I said it
Yeah, yeah.
earlier in this podcast. I think he's having one of the most underrated years. And I think when Watkins comes back, he's going to be better. But if you're talking about, you already got these guys on your team, you want to pick them for this week. I'm going Mike Williams. It's a coin flip between Watson, and Pickens. And just off of just the way George Pickens has been coming along in the Steelers offense, I think I would lean Pickens right now. There's just not enough data on Watson, man. He's a rookie, had an explosive game. We see a lot of players. We've seen Garrett Wilson earlier in the season have an explosive game, and then that was with a different quarterback, and then it kind of dwindles out, once people know who you are. So, yeah, man, you still got Alan Lazard there, so he's not wide receiver one. I think, like I said, 4 catches, 3 touchdowns. Man, it could be written, and those numbers can look crazy. It could have also boomer bust written all over it. So yeah, man, that's the best advice I can give you on that one, man. And moving on, Angel Sereno, Angel Sereno. You got the wide receiver,
Everybody's got
Chris
Watson.
Watson, Paris Campbell, or Tony. And
Ooh.
and on a half PPR league. So I
Mm.
guess you want me. How many you want me to pick here? You want me to pick one? You want me to pick two? How many
Assuming
am I
one.
picking? So
Assuming
just
one.
one. If I only had to pick one out of here, I'm going Paris Campbell. Just because he had the most consistency, but Tony is new on KC. He had a nice little touchdown last week, but his volume isn't there. But if Juju doesn't play, I could see Tony getting a lot of burn. Um, so if I had to, okay, gotcha. If I had to pick one, I'm picking Paris Campbell. That's just me picking Paris Campbell, and I'm just going to live with that. Live
Yeah.
with the Paris Campbell pickup. What about you,
I
man?
like I like Tony, but you're right. It's there's a Mahomes has so many options out there. You never know who's going to get the hot hand, and he's new to the system. I mean, he's becoming quite acquainted with it. Um, I think for this week, though, I think you're right. Campbell would be the option as far as your best conservative option with the lowest risk and the highest upside. So we had really a follow up to the trade question from Michael Bernardo, saying if he accepted the trade, would you drop Tony, Rashard White, Watson, or Garrett Wilson? Neither. No, I'm just kidding. I don't. I would. That's tough. That's a tough one because we just talked
Yep.
about Tony.
I'll pick
Was
it
that
up. I'm dropping Garrett Wilson. I'm dropping Garrett Wilson here.
okay?
Personally, I think because you got some. We know Tony is going to continue to. He's super explosive, and with Juju being hurt, I think Kelsey got banged up. It's low key. They won't talk about it, but Kelsey got a little banged up
Mm,
last week. Man, I watched the KC games. I have Mahomes, and I noticed 83. I don't know what that backup guy's name was, but he was in a lot more
yeah,
than they were giving on. So I don't know if he just got a little banged up, may have just stubbed his toe, needed a little break.
right.
Rashad White can go crazy at any moment. I think he's going to bust out at any moment here. And
And
with Fournette going being a little
exactly.
injured or a little banged up, I think he's good. So me personally, man, I would drop Garrett Wilson. If you can wait till after tonight, you may want to drop Christian Watson because that
Yeah,
was just a 1 game sample of him, man. So that's
yeah.
just that's how I feel about that. What you think, Lee?
Well, I think you're extremely right. It is like we get these trends on these sleeper picks or the free agent of the week. You know, the hot pick because he went off on Dallas. Part of the reason he went off against Dallas was that he was an unknown and Dallas just didn't cover him that well. They were covering Lazard. They were taking their chances, and they got burnt. So
Right.
yeah, I would say tonight would be a big telling point because that trade probably won't go through right away. Rashad White, like you said, with the injury to Fournette, the ceiling is really high.
Yeah.
So
For
I
sure.
think I'm with you on this one. I think Garrett Wilson. I have Garrett Wilson, and I have him on my bench. I've not really used him that much since early on in the season when Flacco was throwing to him for crying out loud was when he was
Yeah.
hot. Now we're
Right.
not getting the same type of production. We're getting okay because if I look at it, Wilson, he's doing like in our league like 12 points a week, which isn't bad for a wide receiver. But if you got to drop one, wait till tonight, see what Watson does, and then make your vision between the two. All right, we
There you go.
got another 10 minutes to go. We got Chris here with another question or with an initial question. This is Chris. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Mike.
Shit, the last 2 weeks, my bad. Sorry. The last 2 weeks, man, Garrett Wilson has showed out. My bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't actually drop Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to that. That is bad advice. I would take Lee's advice on that one. And I would wait to see what happens with Watson tonight. Yeah, and then I would look at dropping him. But yeah, Garrett Wilson's had a resurgent. I
Yeah,
had him
I
earlier
would.
too this year. I dropped him.
Yeah, he's played good the last couple of weeks, double
Yeah,
digits
he
the last couple of weeks.
had
So
a
I
17 point
actually
game.
I made the mistake of having him on my bench instead of Claypool last week, and I paid for it. So
I got
I
you.
would I would I would consider him. All right, so let's get to Chris's question. Mike Will has 2 limited practice coming off a high ankle that signed him after last week. 7, should I trade Sutton and Komet for him, or is he too much of an re-injury risk? It all depends on who you have as your other tight end. If you have another,
Right.
yeah, if you have anything backing it up, just as a insurance, because
Yeah,
Komet's solid right now.
yeah, yeah.
I
Komet
would worry about
and
that.
Sutton. Yeah, man. I would see what they do a little bit longer. Because Mike could come back for 1 game and be right back out.
Yep.
Now, if you're just trying to make a move to really tighten up
He has
your
Andrews as his
team,
other tight end. All right, so
yeah, yeah,
this is tight
okay.
end. I don't know.
So
We
you may
talked
not even
about
need to make
Andrews earlier.
you may not even need to if you can last probably another week or so, you may not even need to do that trade, man. And you may have best of both worlds. You may have Mike Williams coming back for the leading up to the playoffs,
Well,
and you'll
no,
still
he's
have
he's asking if he should trade for Mike Williams.
if he's a trade
Yeah,
for
I
okay,
knowing that he has Andrews, I know he's coming back from an injury.
I got you.
Sutton to me is rust dependent, and we talked about that earlier. It's not been that great for me. Look at his numbers. Cole Kmet's the one that you really is more valuable, but if you've got Andrews and you're not even, I would say that's not a bad that's not a bad risk. I don't know if Williams is a re-injury risk. I mean, that's a chance we all take
Right,
in
100%.
this league. So I like Mike Williams, especially since Herbert he needs that number one guy. He struggles. I mean,
Yeah,
Joshua Palmer's been good. He was a great pickup, but he still was not nearly the explosiveness or the reliability that Williams is when he's in the lineup for
yeah,
Herbert. So
yeah, yeah. I
I would
think if
definitely.
you can go get Williams on this, I say why not? Especially if you have Andrews. If you can last for a little bit, a couple weeks. I think Andrews will probably be back in a couple weeks. I can also check on that too. But I would make this trade. especially because you have Williams. I mean, sorry, because you have Andrews. That's a good point there.
Sounds good. All right, and we got a thank you from Mike Bernardo. Thanks for dropping, guys. I want to say everybody that's joined the live stream tonight, or even if you're watching it on the replay, thank you for your questions. Thanks for being here. I mean, this it tends to be our fantasy show tends to be our biggest show every week, so you'll be happy to know that Tubby and I have discussed it, and we're going to do almost primarily a fantasy show next season for everybody here on YouTube. So if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, do so. We're still going to cover the Eagles, but we're going to cover fantasy a lot harder because it is what everybody loves, and we're no different. We're all football fans, we're all fantasy fans, and that's why we're here. So thanks for joining all you guys tonight. We're gonna look at a couple more questions. Chris got another comment here. There's no more receivers. AJ based on his waiver too. Okay, yeah. So going back to his initial comment, yeah. So Mike Williams you'd have Mike Williams.
And
Yes,
AJ
and you'd have AJ. Yeah, so yeah, that'd be a nice
solid
lineup.
in two.
And I'll tell you, Chris, I know your frustration with Sutton. I tell you what, I've been there all season. When I drafted him, I was like had stars in my eyes. Russ going to Denver. Oh man, here we go. Judy and Sutton, it's going to be on, and then it never took off. So yeah, I think that AJ Brown and Williams is good to have. I would have some insurance policy. I would look at other wide receivers, but you can always find
Mhm.
a decent slide in wide receiver every once in a while. As
Yeah,
long as you got AJ Brown, you're going
yeah,
to be okay.
yeah.
Sutton is nothing to really cry about losing it, at least at this point in the season, unless Russ all of a sudden wakes up and takes off. Who knows? So we're going to be out of here in just a couple more minutes. We
I'll tell
could
you what,
take
Lee,
maybe.
why don't you pop our fantasy teams up, man, so the folks
Oh
can
yeah.
see what we are, the
Wait,
few that
oh
are
yeah.
left, who we working with. I know we haven't
I,
closed
I
out the Eagles part
I
yet.
ain't showing. I'm not showing my team.
Oh man. Oh man. So as you can see,
I'm
guys,
done. I'm done.
here on the left, you can see I took out White Rhinos last week with an incredible performance by
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, Devontae
Huh.
Adams, Barkley, and Christian Kirk. He went off land. So this is my squad
Whoa.
right here. I am Lord Vader. You guys can't see the consistency between the two slides. I am Lord Vader in our league. I'm the commissioner of our league as well, too. Currently sitting at 7-3. As you can see, this is my matchup this week against Gustavo's rad team. Yeah, man, Lamar coming back. It's no telling. Lamar is like Patrick Mahomes at times. They can put up an infinite amount of points. Got Lazard tonight, so I do hope Watson has a great night tonight. I'm rooting for him, and I don't know. I like my matchups here. He got a lot of like backups here. I don't know if he's going through like a bye week or something like that.
What it looks like.
Like he has like a little choppy lineup. Chubb is still Chubb,
Yep.
but with David Montgomery being the star now, with Hubert going down, I feel comfortable with starting him against Atlanta. It's like a perfect time. You got only one running back now going up against Atlanta. I just hope he really does his thing for for me this year, man. And going into the playoffs too, because Khalil Herbert's been just siphoning
Right.
touches from him, man. My kickers normally suck up, but I went ahead and threw Maher in this week because I think it's going to be some points scored again that Minnesota Dallas game.
Yeah.
So
Possibly. Yeah.
yeah, man, and yeah, had Thielen. Oh, that's bro.
I tell you what, for you to score 164 points last week with Pitts only pulling you 4 and Juju only giving you 5, good on you, man. And then Suckup only giving you 3, crazy
Yeah.
stuff. You just get one of the things that I like about your team is that like you said, Pat Mahomes always giving you 50 points a game. It's just unreal. So it's crazy. All right.
That's my brother right here. Bro,
Yeah.
you're probably going to take first after this week after losing Cup and all my heavy hitters on a bye. All I can say, bro, is them's the breaks. Them's the breaks. Because it's a crazy season, man. Outcast told me the other day, he said, your brother only has 2 losses. I gave him both losses. And I was like, dang, that's just crazy how,
Yeah.
how bad of us. I think Outcast only has like 3 wins on the season, and 2 of them is against the Kingslayer, if you will. The top guy. When you playing Call of Duty, you kill the top guy. It's the Kingslayer. But anyway, yeah, man. But I don't know. I do have you in points, but I still have to win. Gustavo's rad team, he beat me earlier this year. So, Man, I'll see what happens when but yeah, if I do win, but that don't mean you're gonna lose. Just no telling, bro. You can't don't try to backdoor jinx me like, oh, but I lose by 2,000 this week, and you go,
Yeah,
huh?
you saw it coming. You saw
You
it
go,
coming.
Thought she was gonna win, bro. But nah,
You saw
man.
it coming.
What's up,
Yeah,
bro?
makes sense.
Good luck to
Well,
you.
you know what? Speaking of that, as far as like you can't overlook anyone. That we can't overlook the Eagles playing the Colts on Sunday in Indy. It's going to be a tough one. Uh, have I mentioned that I'm going to be at this game? Have I said that at all? I don't think
Awesome.
I've mentioned that I'm going to be at this game. I'm excited to go to another game. I went to the Detroit games. This is my second one this year. Taking my son with me. Was going to take you, but you can't get out of Colorado, so it's
Yeah,
all right.
man. I know.
It happens, but it's going to be a good week. I feel that the Eagles are going to do well. What's your prediction for the game?
I like the Eagles on the bounce back here. I can see this game being a good 30-13 game. Go
Ooh.
Birds. I think we should be able to stop, Taylor a little bit. And I think our keys to our victory is really getting to Ryan. I think if we really punch Ryan in the mouth early, I think we'll get what we want the rest of the way.
I'm with you somewhat. I think they'll score. I think Indy, if they just do the ground game and try to control the ball, I think that they'll score at least 17 to 20 points. But I think the Eagles' offense they can be such a quick strike offense. I think that they can put up 27 against the Colts. But we see we're going up against one of the best pass defenses in the league. I don't even decide. I think they're number one in the league against passing. So doesn't matter. Right? But they are one of the top defenses in the league, so we got to be prepared for that.
Right.
Anyway, thank you for everybody who joined tonight, asked us your fantasy questions, and just for being here in the pod. If you like what you hear, make sure that you listen to our regular podcast. Find us on any of your standard podcast providers: Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcaster, Castro. We're out there for everyone. So just take a look, subscribe to us so you can always get notified when we have a new episode drop. Same thing with the YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Make sure you subscribe and you'll get notified every time we go live, especially for a fantasy football week like you guys did tonight. You guys knew we were going to be here. You showed up and we appreciate it. If you want to email us in advance your questions or anything like that, you can do so at lead.bird, that's byrd.eagles there at gmail.com. And I'm out of breath. Eagles, Colts, in Indy, Sunday at 1:00. We're fired up. Let's go. And I'm going to turn it over for Tubby for his final words of the week.
Hey, man. Thanks, everybody that stopped by the Where Goes There podcast. Always appreciate it. Hopefully, it's a bounce back game for us. We go into Indy. We play well away. Hopefully, we can keep that going. Bounce back win 30-13. With that said, fly, Eagles, fly.
And go Birds. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.